All right, joining us now on the phone is Scott Conroy, a reporter for Real Clear Politics. Scott, your article on Sarah Palin putting out feelers in Iowa is all over online. I had a question, I want to have a broader question first.
hmm
What is the importance of Iowa? Why does a state of 3 million people, we're talking half the size of like the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex, why does it play such a key role in determining the presidential candidate?
Well, the nominating cycle is all about momentum, and almost every year, it's not about who can generate the most delegates, except for in 2008 the Democratic side. It's always almost always about who is winning early, and Iowa is the first voting state, and we saw what happened to President Obama before the Iowa caucuses. He was thought as thought of as the second candidate to Hillary Clinton, and possibly even third. And he won in Iowa, and the rest is history. And there's plenty of examples of that. It's a unique state. People here pay very close attention to this stuff. They take it really seriously, and they expect to meet all the candidates one on one almost, more than one occasion, many of them. So it's really a unique kind of thing in American life, and it's a state that all of the potential presidential candidates recognize has the potential to propel them into the White House.
Scott, your report obviously is that there's some initial feelers that are being put out there. What sort of ground game do you think that Sarah Palin would be able to build in a place like Iowa? Obviously, we haven't really seen her, starting from the get-go before. We've only seen her making the big splash on a pre-existing national campaign. How do you think that she would be able to go about building, any sort of organization in a state like that?
Well, I think one thing that people don't really understand about Governor Palin, and we write about this in our book, Sarah from Alaska, is that her career is based largely on her ability to connect one on one with people and to do the kind of retail politicking that some of the very best politicians in recent American history have succeeded at. Bill Clinton is someone that comes to mind. I mean, when
Sure.
she is out there meeting voters face to face, she's so good at connecting with them that, with this sort of celebrity and larger than life figure that she's become, I think people kind of forget that. So in many ways, I think that she would be an ideal candidate in Iowa because that's the kind of politicking that's required here. And by all indications, she understands that she can't just come in and, barnstorm and launch this, big media
Mhm.
campaign from afar. And that's what Fred Thompson tried to do and Rudy Giuliani, and they know that's not going to work. So by the same token, she hasn't been making the same amount of a play here as of yet. This is the first time we really had confirmation from her people that they're even doing anything in Iowa. So she is hanging back longer than some of the others can, and she can afford to do that, I would say, because of her name recognition and prowess among the grassroots here. But sooner rather than later, she's going to have to really start hitting the ground here, if not personally, then with more staffers, more friends of her organization, and just connecting with people here. Now, I want to add, by the same token, a lot of the most kind of prominent sort of I want to say establishment Republican figures here in Iowa are very they're almost miffed that they haven't heard anything from Palin because they see it as kind
Hmm.
of a personal affront that she wouldn't want to take those steps and reach out to them. But I think what we're seeing here, and I was talking to some of the Tea Party folks here, is that she is going to run a campaign that is based not on the way that it's traditionally been done in terms of meeting the right people, shaking the right people's hands. She's going to be, if she runs, she'll be connecting directly with people as much as possible, and also sort of focusing more on the Tea Party presence here, which is smaller than in some states, but it is growing.
Let me follow that up by asking you this: if this is the sort of situation in Iowa, which I think is a key point that it's true. A lot of people outside of there don't understand. Who would be sort of her chief challengers, do you feel like, within the state? Do you think that it would be somebody who would try to match her by sort of getting out there and shaking hands? Is it someone we aren't really talking about in terms of the front running class? Or is it someone who's just going to go in there and dump a bunch of money and sort of do all of the typical things that we kind of expect from big, expensive campaigns?
Well, remember in 2008, Mitt Romney was the guy who came in and dumped a bunch of money and spent a lot of time here and basically banked his whole campaign on winning the thing. And he finished second, and it was devastating to his hopes. So, those kinds of candidates typically don't necessarily do very well here. I would say at this point, you talk to anyone here, and if Mike Huckabee decides to enter the race, he is the clear favorite in Iowa, and there's no question about it. I mean, he won the Iowa caucuses last time around. He still has a huge base of support here. By the same token, the expectations are much higher for him this time around. So he would really have to sort of blow away everyone else in Iowa in order to remain a viable candidate afterwards, because people would be expecting him to win. And also, by the same token, if Huckabee does not get in the race, which there's a lot of speculation that he might not in the end, because he's got his career at Fox and he's doing other things. He seems happy. If Huckabee doesn't get in the race, that leaves a big opening for Palin. And the last thing I want to mention is Michelle Bachmann is here tomorrow. And we haven't heard very much about her in terms of the presidential prospects, nationally at least, that she's sort of come on people's radar screens in the last couple of weeks. But people I'm talking to here on the ground, they all say that she is serious, and she's making phone calls, and she's starting to do the legwork. And again, if Michelle Bachmann gets in the race before Sarah Palin has a chance to, Bachmann could really sort of fill a niche there. So I think Palin does have to be careful about waiting too long if she is interested in doing this.
Well, and Scott, that's what I wanted to ask. Other than Michelle Bachmann, what other dark horse people have are people talking about there? Is there someone like a Rick Perry or somebody like that that's getting a lot of talk but hasn't made official moves out in Iowa yet?
I haven't heard. I don't think Perry's folks have been reaching out, so I wouldn't.
No. And I want to stress that. I was just trying to come up with an example.
Sure. Well, I was curious about that too, so I sort of asked people, but I think Herman Cain. People are taking his campaign seriously here, and that is, he's the kind of candidate that all of a sudden can find a way to build some momentum, and who knows what can happen. I mean, he's pretty much an unknown nationally, but he's the kind of candidate that could have a lot of support here. I hear Mike Pence's name a lot, and we don't know whether he's going to run for governor or for president. Recent indications have seemed to indicate he's more interested in running for governor, but then who knows? And I know that a lot of the people that would be open to Governor Palin if she were to run have actually told me that Mike Pence is really their first choice. And so again, even though she has this universal name recognition and sort of celebrity status, she has to be careful about letting some of these other guys swoop in and fill her niche, because that can happen very quickly here, and momentum can generate for them on the ground. And even though the media will continue to obsess over Governor Palin, that's not what really people care about here. They care about candidates that come and press the flesh with them. That's what they expect, and they won't settle for anything less than that.
Mm-hmm. Let me go out with this, Scott. I feel like it's a key question going forward. Whether people who are defenders of Governor Palin do so because of a perception of her as a victim of attacks, either from the left or from the media, and that as a whole doesn't necessarily translate to wanting her to be president. And I wanted to just sort of gauge, your assessment as somebody who's been on the ground and talking to people over the past few days. Do people like her as a person, or do they like her as a prospective presidential candidate? And is there a distinction there that we're going to see play out over the course of this process?
That's really, I think, the right question and the key question. Almost every this is a very Republicans in the state are very conservative. I mean, it's a swing state. It tends to tilt a little towards the Democratic side in general elections at this point, but Republicans here are very, very socially conservative, and they align themselves with Palin closely in their views, and they love her. They think she's wonderful. As I said, there are a lot of people that I talk to here that that say things like, we love Sarah Palin, but Michelle Bachmann has, she's still in office. You can't accuse her of quitting. Same with Mike Pence. The same questions that would arise with Palin wouldn't arise with them. And so I think a lot of people are sort of thinking that maybe we need to turn in another direction. But by the same token, Palin people forget that she has this magnetic quality that really no one else has, and you can't underestimate that either. And one advantage that Palin has is that everything is her dirty laundry. Everything is all out there. So
yeah.
People can find
they've watched it on the reality show.
Right. People can maybe get the dirt, so to speak, on some of these other potential candidates, but I would say with Palin, we pretty much know everything there is to know that's going to be out there. So I think that's an asset for her. And I'm someone that would never underestimate her. And I would caution all of her potential opponents to think the same way about it, because she has just this way about her of coming back from being counted out over and over again in her career. And, I do think she could do well here. I think she could do very well, but she has a lot of work to do as well.
Well, Scott, thanks so much for joining us, and we appreciate it.
Thanks very much, guys. It was fun.